As an introduction, I want to say that Lailashi Codex deserves conference on its own. We won't be able to fit all the material in this short time, but I hope to give you a little taste of the Lailashi Codex. Also, after my presentation, I am happy to share a link to another recording. We had a Lailashi presentation in Oxford on Zoom and several other places. And I am happy to share links to the web page and to the YouTube channel where you will find more information about. And let's dive into the Lailashi Codex. Fantastic. Thank you very much. First of all, just a little background where Lailashi is located. And I hope on this map you see where Lailashi village is, and you see the snow-covered Caucasian mountains. And what you see in the red circle right here, it's the peak of Caucasian mountains called Ushba. And just to give you an idea what it looks like, how close it is, Lailashi, that's what the Ushba is. So you can imagine how remote is the Lailashi location. Now, let me give you another preview just before we go into the manuscripts. Now, what you see on the right side hand on the lower corner, it's Tbilisi. And you can see on the opposite side, on the left side of the screen, upper top, you will see Lailashi village. So you can see how far you are located from Lailashi. It's about 280 kilometers. Just to give you a little taste, the first photo of the Lailashi village, visit of the Georgian poet Agagi Tsereteli in the village, and that gives you idea the village residents, and that was taken after 50 years since Chorny's visit, but we cannot go into further details. And just I'll give you another slide. This is the synagogue where Lailashi Codex lived before it was taken, and the story begins, our known story begins from this place. So this is just as an sort of overview. Now, I will give you a little taste of what is inside of the Lailashi Codex, then, and we can then open up more discussion about other issues. First of all, this is the largest early biblical manuscript that is known. By the value of the parchment, Lailashi Codex is most expensive work of the scribe. And just to give you an idea how big it is and how it compares with other codices, we all know Aleppo Codex, and you can see if you put Aleppo Codex and Lailashi Codex upon each other, you see the frame of the Aleppo Codex, where it ends and how far the Lailashi Codex extends. And as you all know, the Leningrad Codex, another famous, the base of, and again, you see on the screen size, how it compares with the Lailashi Codex. And the biggest codex so far was a British Library Codex, and Lailashi Codex even exceeds this one. So that simply gives you idea of its volume. Now, I'll give you a little snapshots about exquisite micrography. Just to give you here on the margins, you have Masora written in a most exquisite way. We cannot stop, and each of those images deserves a lecture of its own. Therefore, we simply cannot go into the detailed discussions. But as I said, I just want to give you a little window into this context. Here we have, this comes from the Hazinu page. And again, yes, you have this beautiful micrography. Now, in these 20 minutes, I would like to focus on unique features of the Lailashi Codex. And therefore, we will discuss 3 levels of complexity. And let me explain. I will show you the genius, the super unbelievable work of Lailashi scribe. First level of complexity. Now, in order to understand first level of complexity, we have to little bit go back to the origin of the Judaism. And as you all know, the origin of Jewish worship begins with tabernacles. And excuse me, it's not the perfect picture, but that's the only one I found. This is reconstructed model of tabernacle, what it looked like. And as you know, that's where the Jewish worship begins. Now, what is important about this tabernacle is that its the construction was divinely given to Moses, and the frame and the commandments. And let me just show you. Here we have this text, the description of the tabernacle. And if I ask you, if you could just go back, if I ask you by looking at the picture, what is the most important item or the feature of this tabernacle? Perhaps some people would immediately focus and say that's the ark, the Holy of Holies, where the tables and tablets were kept, or the altar where the sacrifices were brought. People will little bit ignore most important item. And here we have description, the 3 main parts, the curtains and the post and the hooks. And I would like to show you the most important item in this tabernacle are the hooks, because hooks hold curtains to the post. Without hooks, tabernacle would not stand. Now, as you may know in Hebrew, word hook is the same word as letter vav, which you see, which looks like very much as a hook. Therefore, let's go to the next one, and I will show the significance of this. Here we have this hook. After the destruction of the temple, Torah, or the parchment, or the scroll became the symbol of the temple. Therefore, what you see here is a specific presentation of the Torah scroll, which resembles tabernacle. But you see the columns here are like curtains, and the red squares, small squares that you see, they are like hooks. And those curtains are attached to the posts, and posts are the empty white spaces you see between the columns. Therefore, this is called, this style of writing of the Torah is called Vavei HaAmudim. Before Lailashi Codex came to life, we did not have a codex written in the style of Vavei HaAmudim. First level of complexity is that every leaf of the codex begins with the letter Vav. Lailashi Codex was used, must have been used as a model, as a guide for writing Torah scrolls. Torah scrolls should have been and would have been written by following the structure of the Lailashi Codex. This is just one level of complexity, calculation of the scribe to arrive at the beginning of every page with the letter Vav, the word which starts with letter Vav. Now, second level of complexity that we can observe is this. Let me explain. Torah contains, you see on the screen, the number of verses. And the length of the verses varies from 10 letters to 127 letters. This is what you see in red on the screen. This is the shortest verse in the Torah. And next one is the longest verse of the Torah. So you can see discrepancy, how unequal the size-wise the biblical verses are. Now, the second level of complexity that Lailashi Codex achieves is Lailashi scribe distributes 5,845 verses without splitting a verse in 188 leaf manuscript. In this picture, what you see under red square is two dots on above each other, and this is the sign of the end of the verse, and every leaf ends with a verse. So this is a second level of complexity, that every leaf ends with a verse. And a third level of complexity, Torah contains letters, words, and verses, as you see on the screen. Modern Masoretic manuscripts mark midpoints of all three denominations, midpoints of the letters, midpoints of the words, and midpoints of the verses. Now, if you look at the picture, you realize that it's easier to mark a midpoint of the letters because you can calculate how many letters are, and then you know exact point when you arrive. The same with words, even though words are different lengths, but still it is not as difficult as arriving at the midpoint of the verses. You already know, yes, here we have, I'm showing you those marks. Lailashi Codex has many paratextual peculiarities, and those 3 points, the 3 images that you see are the images, the middle point of the letters, midpoint of the words, and midpoint of the verses of the book. As you already know, the length of the verses varies from 10 to 127. So, Lailashi scribe distributes 5,845 verses so precisely that he arrives at the midpoint of the verse on exactly middle leaf of the book of the Codex. Here we have it. On this page, if you look on the lower 83, which I pointed with the red arrow, now it is 83 in current composition, but which is missing the pages for use. Originally, that 83 would have been page number 94. And in 188 page manuscript, the exact middle, when you open the book, exact mid is 94. And as you see, when you open in exact middle page and you see double here, you see here that sign which I put in the red square. This is the sign of the midpoint. So it is quite remarkable So far, I mentioned, of course, Aleppo Codex, we don't have to compare, but I mentioned the Leningrad Codex and I mentioned the British Library. Those scribes could not achieve that precision. So this is quite a significant skill. To go very quickly. So third level of complexity consists in that Lailashi scribes made midpoint of the Torah to make midpoint of his book, of his codex. They are what we are talking about. Look at this picture, and each cell, each cell represents a page, and you see how precisely you should calculate those verses to arrive exactly at the middle. So it is a quite remarkable achievement. Here we are. Again, to summarize all three levels of complexity. As I said, it's huge subject. We could go endlessly. Would like to hand back to the chair of the session.
Thank you very much. It was wonderful. Colleagues, if you have questions, if you have come to here to microphone.
Write in a chat. I can read in a chat. If anyone wants to write in a chat, I can answer.
Thank you. This was simply a fascinating lecture. Thank you very much for this. I'm ignorant in the subject itself to ask you a real question, but I want your impression. Yesterday, I went to the Jewish Museum here in Tbilisi. So I saw something there. And then I read that the codex itself is not there, but it's in another place in Tbilisi. So I'm confused a little bit. What did I see there? And where is the codex exactly? So this is the first question. And the second is, I mean, the exhibition in the Jewish Museum, it was nice, and people over there also took me and made it was clearly that they didn't want me to leave before I will give enough attention to the Lailashi Codex, because otherwise maybe I would miss it among all the stands there. But I wonder, with these things that you are saying, why it didn't get more attention and even more museum-oriented attention, and also in the literature, also in Hebrew. I mean, we are not aware enough about it. So this is quite interesting for me.
Fascinating. Thank you very much for this question. And it allows me to give you a little context. First of all, you're absolutely right. The knowledge of the Lailashi Codex came to the Western world just recently. I put links in a chat, and you can read more about it here. I published a book in which I give lots of history and background. What you see in the Jewish Museum is just the mural. It's not a real manuscript. And I have very exciting news, which again did not yet gain much knowledge in outside world. 169 leaves of the Codex are kept in Tbilisi. National Library of Israel hosts 3 leaves of the Lailashi Codex, which is continuation. One is at the end of Genesis, and 2 pages, 2 leaves, which continue Haazinu. Haazinu is split between Tbilisi and Jerusalem. First page of Haazinu is in Tbilisi. That's the Lailashi Codex in Tbilisi ends, and it continues in the National Library of Israel, where you can go and enjoy the view. I know that it's available for order and viewing. So that's very little background I can give you. And as I said, Ben-Zvi Institute has a wonderful connection with Lailashi Codex. I write the whole chapter about that the first time and only time when Georgian side shared the microfilm of the Lailashi Codex, was Ben-Zvi, and they presented it to the president, Ben-Zvi, and I write the whole story that it was actually in exchange of the, what I call exchange gift for the Rustavelli. Rustavelli was mentioned at the conference. Shota Rustavelli and recovery of his fresco, which is in a monastery of Holy Cross in Jerusalem, is intimately connected with the Lailashi Codex. On this website, which I will put in a chat, you can see I have given full index of the Lailashi Codex, and you can see the content and pick up the themes. Lailashi Codex deserves conference on its own. It opens the venue in multidisciplinary study, starting from history. I am biblical scholar. It requires study from historians, from textual study, from biblical study, Masoretic studies, art and illumination. It opens entire different field. And I want to respect speaker, Professor Yakov Sarik, next one. Georgian Jewish scholarship always has been on marginal sites. It's never been considered as central point. Particularly, we didn't have any evidence, textual evidence from medieval time. So that changes the narrative, I would say, historical narrative. And we cannot even touch the most important question, which is provenance of the Lailashi Codex. What I did in my book, I refute some theories which have no scientific ground. In community level, it was taught and perceived as if it was brought from Sephardi communities, but I refute to say Lailashi Codex could not have been written in Sepharad, so we cannot go any further. Thank you very much, and I think I should be back to chair. Thank you.